the Rangers Journal now.
Evening, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Journal on this Monday, the 2nd of December. We are getting into the thick and fast games as we head into December. I've got my Christmas jumper on. I'm really feeling in the festive spirit, although I am sat next to a radiator, so clearly didn't think this one through. I'm joined by a great panel tonight to talk through Rangers' victory against St Johnstone yesterday at 12 o'clock. I've got Ricky on board. Ricky, how are you getting on, pal? Were you jealous of our trip to Nice?
Extremely jealous, mate, but I was also really pleased that he enjoyed himself. And what a great result to go and have a good night of time with the lads, wasn't it? Obviously, Georgia as well. But yeah, it was fantastic. And yeah, I wish I was there with you. But maybe in the next round we'll, if we get, because I'm quite confident we'll probably get through now. It was a great result for us. It's one of those ones that could have went either way. But to get a convincing victory against, albeit a kind of rather weakened, I should imagine, the Nice team, it's still very, very welcome. And then bang, Sunday happens, So it's, but yeah, it's good to be here. Good to see you, Ross and Jock, mate. And I'm looking forward to our next sort of our conversation.
Yeah, for sure. Good to have you on, Ricky. Jock, good to have you on, mate. This is my first pod with you, so always nice to get new podders on board. How are you, pal?
I'm not too bad. That's another shift over, another day closer to Christmas and the holidays. So just looking forward to talking about Rangers as usual.
Good man. And Ross, last but not least, how are you, pal?
Look at us just being Rossies. You can never have too many Rossies on a pod. I don't think so. Look at us just being Rossies. I mean, you've got better hair than me and a better jumper. So, no, always good. I think always talking about last Thursday, sky high, great result. And then Rangers, as always, domestically bring us back, crashing down to earth, back to reality. But no, we'll get into it.
Yeah, we will indeed. So as it has happened a few times this season, we've had to kind of dust ourselves down after a good result, whether it's a draw or a victory, and get our kind of serious hats on as we start to try and claw back some of these points ahead of us in the league. Ricky, I'm keen to get your thoughts on, I guess, the starting lineup first of all, and was it expected to see the rotation with Hadji coming in and a few others?
No, I was actually surprised to see Hadji, to be honest with you, because we all know what Clement's like. He's got that kind of team in his mind that fits his system. And the boys will tell you, on the chat, as you know yourself, Ross, I'm a massive fan of Hadji. I think he's been totally underused. Okay, there was a contractual issues. The boy come back, sort of a 20-minute cameo, had an assist, didn't get sent off, so he's been used sparsely. He's not in the European squad. But for me, the one positive, or there was a couple of positives, I'm not wrong, but it was a massive positive for us, against St Johnstone. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. And anything that was positive for us in the final third, it always involved him. And from now on, if he's not in that 10 role, then Clement is just... I just don't know, we've got a player who can play left, right. Both his feet are as strong as each other. He's got a quick brain. He's ideal for that link, that number 10 that Clement keeps wanting within his system. And I think everybody will agree that Hadji is that man to do that. He just needs to get a little bit more match fit, mentally match fit, as well as physically. And when we can get Danilo match fit so he can start and contribute for the whole 90 minutes, I think we've got something. Cortes can't be that far away. You're then going to have these kind of Bajrami, whether that's going to be Hadji, we're going to have numbers, choices to make, and that's got to be good going forward. But Hadji was a good sort of a positive for me. And yes, I was surprised to see him in the starting line. I thought he'd have went with Diomande proper. He played again well down in France, and was just back to his normal. It can't continue like this in domestic game for me. I'd rather have Ben Davis back in that team. So if we're going to be keeping proper, I'd recall Ben Davis from his loan down in Birmingham and try and punt proper, because he's not good enough for the domestic game. And I don't see him improving, Ross. And that's just my opinion, mate.
No, I think it's a fair statement. We'll certainly come on to that. Jock Tavernier back in the team, and alongside Hadji in the 10. Ricky touched on how well Hadji played in that area, but were you surprised to not see Hadji maybe out left and Bayrami playing in the more central role?
I think that's what we all assumed Bajrami was brought in for, was to play that number 10. I know Hadji can, if you want to, you could push him out there. He's probably done it in the past, but ideally, I'd want him in the 10 role, as Ricky says, because that's probably his more natural position, more comfortable position, where he can link up the play. He's not scared to take a shot from outside the box if given a chance. Tavernier back in the team, not really a surprise, and once we obviously found out what had happened with Dujon. Hopefully that's not something that's too long term with him. Again, Tavernier, he's starting to phase into that role now, where he's going to be doing a bit part, and obviously he contributed in the goal, which we'll probably talk about later on. But good to see Tav at least have an impact on the game, because it's been a while since we've seen that from Tav, and it's something we've been sorely missed, because I think we've been too reliant on Tav's impact from set pieces, balls in the box, or even penalties. It's just not something we've seen this season at all. So it was good to see him back contributing once again.
Yeah, completely agree. I think that's probably the furthest forward I've seen him in a long time. Ross, it was touched on there that Sterling obviously injured out for this game. Hopefully that's not for too long. Do you foresee it now that Sterling is the man who's got that jersey, and Tavernier may sort of pip it off him for certain games, or do you think that's still kind of horses for courses depending on who they're playing?
In an ideal world, I think we need to, for a long time, have had to be looking for the long-term Tavernier replacement, and we've never found one that seems to have any level of consistency to match what he's got in terms of his fitness. He's always available. He's always there come hell or high water. And with Dujon Sterling, we haven't had that. As much as we like him, we like he's got a lot of positive attributes, but this is another part where he's had a run of games and then he's out. And I know it says, Philip Clement says that it's because of a kind of long-standing nerve issue. I think he said it was a trapped nerve, if I'm correct in saying. But it's after a run of games where we've looked like, okay, we've maybe starting to get something settled, and we're having to change again and bring back the guy that isn't the long-term answer. We're talking about a project and transitional season, but we have to keep going back to the old guard again. So what's the point? We're not getting anything out of it. We then thought we maybe had another able deputy in Casson Weirjo. He could play there. He's looked good in spells. Of course, the Rangers curse, where he's now basically out for the season. He's going to go back to the current club. So it's just one of those. It's a frustrating thing that seems to happen to us more than other clubs. You don't think you see it as much, that you've got these kind of these kind of long-term injuries or these inconsistent run of games that just makes us have to go back to what we've got. Now, I'm not saying that he had a bad game, and perhaps we're starting to see the benefits of the rotation. That by him not having to play 3 games in a week, or 5 games in, I don't know, whatever, 2 weeks or whatever, we're starting to maybe see the benefits of that. He's maybe got a little bit more in the legs, but this is the problem. But are we going to be back to square one come next Sunday, because Sterling might be out, Casemiro is definitely out, so he's going to play the next 2 games. So by next Sunday, after playing Kilmarnock at home and Ross County away, are we going to be back to square one where he's knackered and we don't have a replacement? So it's something that I think needs to be addressed big time in January as well. I think it's something to be looking for in January.
So you think we should actively be looking for that? What would you suggest a kind of another, I don't know, utilitarian sort of player that you could put in anywhere across either sort of wing backs or around there, or because that's, these guys will be coming back. Sterling will be back, and Tav is still a big wage to have sat there as a third, fourth choice. Yeah,
definitely. I think that there's nothing wrong with having, like Ricky said, it's bodies. We're still missing bodies, but I think there's still. I still think there needs to be more to it than just having to go back to Tavernier. I don't think he's the answer. I think there's a lot of things going on. I know there's been quotes today in the media to him talking about my numbers have been good and talking about testimonials and all that stuff, and I'm kind of fed up listening to the arguments, to be honest with you. I think we need to move on in terms of the first choice right back and the second choice. I don't think we'll deal with it in January, but that's just what I would like in an ideal world.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough, and it's a fair statement. It's an interesting, I guess, conversation to have, and I guess there's another interesting conversation to be had on the other side, Ricky, in which we've got Jeff Day, who's been playing well. I think that's fair to say. He's had a good start to the season. Of all the players that have come in, I think he's been one of the more exciting ones and impactful ones. But now we've got, we've got a player who's coming back from injury in Ridvan Yilmaz, who was very good before he got injured in a long-term injury. And I think it'd be good to get your thoughts, but it seems as though from the game I saw yesterday that Clement doesn't really understand how to utilise them both, but he wants to.
Yeah, I think when Ridvan plays, he kind of plays more inverted quite a lot of the times with Ridvan. I don't know what's to say, naturally always comes inside, but he's in the middle of the park off on his services, and he always seems to contribute. Go back just quickly to Casa. He's now gone back, as Ross quite like said, to his parent club. So that leaves another player that can come in a free, but they don't have to buy because the budget was all there. We're not paying Casa's wages anymore. So I fully expect another right back or one guy at defender, as you sort of said, Ross, where he's going to be flexible, can play a few positions. But I would like to think, because going into the Celtic game at the cup final, if it's Tav against Maida, he'll destroy him. It's as simple as that. He cannot cope with that boy's pace. So it needs to be Sterling for that game. Maybe that's why they'll just leave Sterling now, with Tav playing it right back for the next two domestic games before that cup final. Because Tav against Maida, we're dead. We're buried before the game even starts. And that's just a fact that we need to address as a club. This is where Tav against a pacey winger that other teams will just put down there on that wing to sort of exploit Tav's lack of pace and his ability to sort of be on the offensive, and he just doesn't get the pace to get back anymore. He doesn't get the energy anymore. That maybe isn't Tav's fault. This is with the 3-5-2 for me. Utilising the squad would probably work better. But I mean, that's another debate, isn't it? But going back to Jeffrey, you're absolutely right. Jeffrey's been a major plus to me. Is he the real deal or the finished article? Absolutely not. The boy's got lots of learning to do, but he's got lots of good attributes. If the two of them were fit and ready to go, I think defensively I'd probably rather have Ridvan in there. But I'd love to see the two of them play together. With Jeff Day a little bit further forward. Bajrami's going to come inside. But incidentally, Jock Bajrami, we all thought was going to come in as a number 10. But when you watch him playing for his national team, he plays in the left wing. So I, for one, thought he was coming as a number 10 for us. But I'm not really convinced, that is the case when you look at his national team. But he's a player, and we can utilise him. But again, it's just getting these players back, like Loss sort of alluded to earlier on there, and we have options. Options will give everybody that sort of a spring in their step, knowing that there's going to be sort of a competition there. And it's just all bodes well, but it's just we need to get these players back challenging and giving everybody a wee bit of a lift. But yeah, for me, it'd be Ridvan as my starter as a left back, but by God, Jeffrey's going to be a player for us if he can keep progressing the way I think he will do. Because he's only a 20-year-old boy, and he's got a lot to learn, but he's got a lot of good attributes.
Yeah, fair enough. Jock, talk us through your thoughts on that first half that we saw. It'd be good to get your take on how the game unfolded.
I think we huffed and puffed for a bit. We found it difficult. I watched the highlights back again just to sort of try and jog the memory and sort of look at the chances that we had in the first half, and everything was sort of outside the box. There was a good chance of Igamani. I always thought Igamani looked very isolated up there. There's always a couple of bodies around him, so obviously they'd seen what he'd done on the Thursday night and thought, right, we'll do a number on him. And there was one move where he did manage to drag the two defenders away, create the space, and he got the shot in. Granted, the shot was at the keeper, but I say we huffed and puffed and we just didn't really look like we were going to get anything in the box. The crosses were coming in. The number 9's not in the box. He's at the edge of the box. I think we didn't have enough bodies in there to hit anything with. Whenever the ball did come in from either side, if we do what we always do, we play about the ball in the edge of the box and try and tease people out. It doesn't seem to work because I still think we've got the quality in that final third. That changed when Danilo came on and the game in the second half got a wee bit of stretch. But again, focusing on the first half, I just think it was a bit of a slog, and it wasn't great. It wasn't a great watch sitting watching on the telly. So I wouldn't imagine it would have been a great watch in the stands either.
Yeah. Ross, it'd be good to get your thoughts as well on that first half. But for what it's worth, I thought that at times I genuinely saw some patterns of play and speed of passing and dynamism that I haven't really seen in a while. Granted, it didn't come to anything, which is the number one aim of putting the ball in the net. Get that. Some of the slickness of passing, moving into play was really nice to watch.
Absolutely. I thought at times we did look like a team that, for small spells, knew what they were doing. Now, I know you said that it never really came to anything. You know, there's a shot for Czerny from outside the box. Bajrami, I think, pulls 2 saves from the goalkeeper in the first half, if I'm right in saying. There's one that's kind of half volley, and there's one, tell it's not, he kind of scuffs it. I think a man puts him off and he mistimes the shot. But we were creating chances. You know, it wasn't as if it was like, you know, the kind of other games where we've seen where we've had 45 minutes of absolutely nothing. But what I think is, at times, I think we maybe did have to take our foot off the gas a bit, because a couple of times we were losing the long ball over the top. Proper gets caught under the ball. He's getting outpaced by the guy up front for St Johnstone, whose name escapes me, I can't remember, but he gave Proper a torrid time, which we know Proper can't deal with physicality and a bit of pace, which is probably what a lot of these provincial SPFL clubs have got up front. They've got a big guy who can hold the ball up and might have a ton of pace. I always think of Joe Rubley, who was at Livingston. He was the same kind of player, and he would have given us the same issues. You know, so I understand why maybe at times we still had to be conservative, because we would have been caught in the break. Fortunately, St Johnstone weren't. You know, they're not a great team, and I think that's, you know, but we still did. I agree with Joe. With times we did look like we really, really huffed and puffed, but I don't think we were as bad in the first half as we have been. And I suppose when you're at this stage of the season and we've been as bad as we have been, you have to take that as a positive.
Yeah. It was you mentioned there about Robin Proper. Let's just have a bit of a gear change and chat about him there. What's going wrong for the fella?
Maybe it's the pace of the Scottish game. Maybe technically he is a good player, which I'm sure he is. He can see a pass when he pulls it off. But like Golson used to be able to do that quite often. But under the hustle and bustle of the Scottish game, maybe we just underestimate our game too often. I don't know. But when you play in Europe and you're playing a team with the game's a little bit more open, he seems to be fine. He seems to be comfortable. But when he's up against that sort of a press, hustle and bustle of the Scottish game, his positional play doesn't seem to be right. Suter doesn't look the same player alongside him. I mean, Suter was absolutely brilliant, but in the second half he was immense. You know, when he had Big Balogun, alongside him, and that maybe tells you a story that he doesn't really trust Proper. And I've said, and I'm sorry for repeating myself on this for any viewers out there, but you know, we go and we sign Proper from FC20, is it? And we had the exact same player already at Ibrox in Ben Davis, the exact same player. If anything, Ben Davis is a better football player. I would maybe give Proper, defensively, probably a bit more powerful with the header, because that was the one thing that maybe lets Ben Davis down a little bit. He's not an aggressive defender in the air, but technically Ben Davis is a very good football player, and he has good positional awareness, Ben Davis, so I cannot understand why the recruitment decided to go and spend $1.5 million on a 31-year-old Robin Proper, and they let an ex-Liverpool player who is actually a player go on loan to Birmingham, and we didn't improve the team. In fact, we might even have weakened it by that decision. But that's Rangers for you, isn't it?
It is, Ricky, and look, I think a lot of people are starting to lose faith in the guy, or at least kind of starting to point out his weaknesses more. Ross, I think you were going to come in with something or some thoughts on Proper there as well at one point.
Sorry, no, I was just going to kind of elaborate on, but I agree 100% with Ricky. I think the reason that Ben Davies left was because he, like a lot of players at that time, just he'd no credit in the bank, and it was probably, if we had kept him, then, and we were in the same situation. But say we've had the same player, so if we were having the same issues, but we kept Ben Davies, it would have just been like, why do we keep Ben Davies? What's the point in keeping Ben Davies? I understand Robin Proper coming in, and at the time it was a downgrade, but we'd lost Goldson, and we had to replace some attributes that we thought we were losing. Not so much in terms of his aggression on the ball, but we were Robin Proper were talking about him being a captain of a team that had a great season last year. They probably overachieved FC20 last year. So. And he's clearly a leader of that. I think he had a little bit of a reputation as a bit of a goal-scoring defender. If you kind of watch some of the goals he scored, he looked decent. But, it's one of those things we talk about. They come up here, and I think some of them, they think it's a bit of a pub league. I really do think that players show up and they think, it's Scottish football. Sorry, I'm here to play in Europe. That's where I'll be challenged. And that's where they look good in Europe, because they're designed to play in European football. But when it comes to, football that's basically been the same since 1995, they're not going to deal with
it. Yeah, quite well said there, I think. Jock, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on, I guess, the best centre-back pairing that we've got at the minute, because it feels as though Proper's, by all means, slowly making a rod for his own back, and he's not going to get a look in anytime soon.
Yeah, he just seems to have poor spells in games, and it can be crucial moments, like the misjudging of the header yesterday, that almost let St Johnstone in, was quite alarming, I think, for everybody. And then, as Ricky says, as soon as Balogun come on, Souttar's went up a gear as well. So I think it's Balogun and Souttar's the two, because the two, I suppose, have played together longer, so it kind of makes sense. Balogun's been around, barring that year he was away. He's been around for a couple of years, and Balogun's always sort of there when he's relied upon. He's even played a shift at right back once upon a time. So Souttar and Balogun for me. Souttar has done really well since international break. Well on international duty as well. His form's kind of just been pretty steady, and in my opinion, I'm used to seeing Souttar doing okay, and then he'll have a mistake, and then that'll set him back maybe 5 or 6 games. But this is the first time I think I've seen Souttar constantly just keep building and be steady, 8, 9 out of 10 every week. Nothing seems to be phasing him right now, which is good to see. And then Balogun's that other person that has the ability to take the ball out from the back with his feet, can go by people even at his age, is confident, and then just breeds confidence in the two centre backs, the spine of the team. And then all more so whenever they're playing with Tav on the right as well. It's, Jeffy's the only real sort of new entity in that team, but then Yilmaz is coming back as well. So we're starting to get I think we're going to have a settled back line, I think, going forward.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And look, we've still got, your NCRs and Kings in the wings to step in if needs be. I think it would be nice to see NCR at some point. We've got an exciting young prospect from AC Milan who, by all means, turned down a new contract to join with us. Where you at, lad? Step in. Let's see you. Ricky, look, I've got can you sympathise here? I've got a comment here. I'll only flash it up. With fans when we're hearing things like, like this, honking football, worst I've seen for any Rangers team, want the manager gone, etc., etc. Can you sympathise with that, or are you starting to see the little shoots of growth that would indicate that we're moving in a certain direction, and a positive one at that?
I don't see what direction we're moving in, Ross, at all. This is what's, we had a good performance on Thursday night, but the manager for me is just going from game to game to game before it's back. The whole scenario is let's get rid. Now he's not going to, he's too stubborn. too stringent, and he actually, going to the game against St Johnstone there, we don't have any of the midfielders running beyond the likes of Hadji, who is the kind of person to link things up. There's just, so the final third, there's 71% possession. We don't have that. We don't have any runners at all. Czerny, as much as I like him, as long as he's a good player, he's very predictable. He will never hit the byline because he always wants to come inside. So, again, the fullback against Czerny, he must be quite a reasonably decent player to be up against, because you know what he wants to do all the time. So you don't have to second guess what his next move's going to be. Bajrami, I like the boy, but he's not the player, or he hasn't been consistently playing to the level which I know, or I think we all know, that he can do. And it's just because he's been stifled, he's been, with the system that Clement's got in there. I just think it's very, 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 we've got a core of players there, and we need to play a system that's suited to those core of players, not a system and then try to squeeze, square pegs into round holes. And it's just not working, and it's just rather predictable and boring. And so is he going to get January transfer window? I don't see him getting beyond 2 defeats to Celtic. So the January window won't be his. And I genuinely don't think we'll beat Celtic in the final or the next league game. And I mentioned before, if Tav starts in both those games, we'll beat him straight away, because Maida will kill him.
Appreciate the optimism, Ricky.
That's the way it is. I'm trying to be
honest.
Honest in opinion. It's pointless saying, Tav has had several occasions now against Celtic, and it's getting destroyed every time he plays them. But we'll still go and put Tav right back against Maida. It's just so obvious what Celtic will do, and yet we keep on putting Tav there. It's come on. If he wants to keep on continuing, then he'll mind him.
Ross, before we go and spend a load of money here in January, do you think that we're backing the right horse?
I love your optimism that we've got lots of money to spend in January. I love the idea of that, because I don't think I don't know how we can post a £17 million loss, want to sack a manager, have to appoint a new one, and have money to spend. I think that if it's in the hypothetical scenario that he goes, which I think he will go, I don't think any Rangers manager can go 7 games without beating Celtic, regardless of circumstances. I don't think that's feasible. I don't think that's right. If the roles were reversed, that would never happen. You would never, ever in a million years get a Celtic manager going 7 games without beating Rangers. It's a simple fact. So, and like you say, we're now at a stage where if Sterling is not fit, we know who's playing. So then, as soon as we know who's playing, we know what the tactic is. So I understand, and he needs to be. I think Philippe Clement has been given a bad hand. I really do believe that, and I do feel that he's perhaps not been sold the vision. Sorry, he's been sold a vision that he's not been given in terms of a proper backing. That happens. It's not the first time it's happened to a manager, and it probably won't be the last, especially with us. But the parts of the club and the parts of the team that he can control and that he has significant influence over, he doesn't do well enough. He can control how the team play. He can control the positioning of the players. Whether that's a change of formation, whether that's a change of tactics, he can do that. That's what he gets paid, and he gets paid very well to do it. He doesn't do that well enough. So I think, and maybe it's because he doesn't believe he can get anything out of the squad because he's maybe been sold a false dream. I don't know. That's not for me to say. But I think that if this is the route we were going to go down, we were never going to get another pragmatic manager to come out and play great football, because the last 3 we've had all wanted to play essentially the same way. And it's not going to get the results because, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting it to change. And that's what we've done for years. The only thing is the guy with the red, white and blue ties just been slightly different. This has been the same thing for years, playing well in Europe, domestically, struggling to beat teams that just basically set up to man mark. So yeah, we need to completely change the targets of managers that we bring in. And I think that's, until that changes, nothing will change. We'll just keep going in the same vicious cycle.
I think it's a fair statement. I think there's probably load more to it as well in terms of investment structure, having the right people in board level, trying to eke out the correct financial sort of commercial ventures and commercial opportunities for a club of our size, because clearly there's a huge mass appeal there, but actually we're not getting the revenue in through the door, or whatever that might be causing that means that we're actually, struggling to get the players we want. I think we all saw the summer, and the writing was on the wall for me right from the start of summer. I've said it before, the writing was on the wall when we weren't really linked with anyone, and Clement was sort of saying that he's happy with the squad, and there's kind of, the only hope we had is that we had to sell some players who were arguably better than what we've got in now. The writing was all on the wall for me, so I'd agree that he's been dealt a difficult hand. I think and I think that doesn't stand him in good stead. The challenge is that, why are we able to do it in Europe? Why are we able to beat good teams, but we can't beat the teams that we're playing? And I think it's what Ricky would probably echo me in saying, the tactical inflexibility of being too stubborn to change the way you play against the team. And lo and behold, I think that will probably be his comeuppance. Jock, would be good to get your thoughts on that. Do you think that we're back in the right horse here? If we've got any cash to spend at the minute, and we go and buy some players in January, and Clement's gone by the end of Jan, I mean, surely that's pretty naive from a business point of view.
Yeah, I think the next two European games might influence what's happening in terms of money wise. Obviously, if we pick up some more points, might sway us to part with some money in January. Question is, does it go to Clement or Scotland to decide where it's going to be best spent? Big couple of weeks coming up for Clement, and like Ricky says, any Rangers manager hasn't beat Celtic in seven games doesn't stand a chance as a Rangers manager. There'll be very little or none success at all. He's done okay. We're in a cup final against them. I think cup final games, one off. I think we could take that as a positive, regardless if Tav is starting right back or not. I think the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I think is going to have a big say on what's going to happen in January. The new CEO is going to be there. He's going to see things. He's going to have his feet well under the table by that point. He'd like to think, even though I know his start date is after the cup final. I think his start date is.
Yes, it is.
So yeah. He's bound to be doing some sort of due diligence on what's going on. If it's not officially, then you'll see what's happening. The fans' reaction as well, what happened over the next couple of weeks, will play a big part as well, I'd imagine. And if the results aren't great, or if it's embarrassing in some of these games, the fans might make their voices be heard more so than they already have been in terms of Clement's style, because I'm struggling to see what it is. And as Ross says, we've been doing the same thing under the past three managers, the same formation. It's probably why it's easy whenever Clement first came in and he had that manager's bounce and we went out in that run of games, because it was the same sort of system. So it was just, it was easy for the players to sort of buy into and just do. But Clement's stubbornness to change anything and try something different, even try. The fans will get behind something if we can try and we can see something to buy into. But we're not even seeing that. It's the same thing over and over again. And I think fans are just bored now. Bored of the same lineup. Bored of the same predictable play. I'm one of them.
Yeah, it's frustrating, and I think it's hard because we can see there is talented players there, but clearly he's not getting the best out of them. And the game in Nice showed that there is talent in the squad.
That's it. If we want to buy players, we need to sell players, and we're not selling players because nobody in the last 18 months has been improved enough to be able to punt on for a decent profit. We've missed that. The only last person to do that was Bassey. That's what come 2.5 years ago now. Nobody in this Rangers team's improving under Clement well enough to substantiate a sizable fee. The only one I think we could be Butland only because I think he's got a bit of credit in the bank because he's played down in the Premier League, and we're hoping a Premier League team comes in and gives big money for him. Apart from that, I can't see anybody going for big money.
No, I think you look further down the line, not this year, but maybe next year. You've got Egerman, who, if he can continue and show form as the way he has, then maybe there. You've got Jeff Day again, very young, talented player. I wouldn't mind getting Casemiro in if we've got that price locked in. I think there's talent in him. And then Barron probably as well would be a standout as someone who's... So I do think there's talent there. I appreciate it's not the £25 million players that we would probably think that would be generating, but they've got to start somewhere. I do think there is talent in this squad. Ross, quick question for you, and it's just with regards to the upcoming fixtures that we've got. So we've got Killy this week, so that's on Wednesday at home. We've then got Ross County away in Dingwall, which just feels like it's just an inevitable draw or defeat. So I'm usually very optimistic, but that feels painful. And then we've got some exciting games to look forward to. We've got Spurs, we've got the Old Firm, which we'll see where that goes. And that kind of takes us through then into the post-Christmas series of games. Where's your head at with these next few games? Would you be happy if we go into the Tottenham and Celtic game grinding out a win against Killy and Ross County?
I think we need to be realistic, and I think if it's anything other than a ground-out win, we'd be surprised, because we're going to play a Derek McInnes team at home on a Wednesday night in the first week in December. The script writes itself. We've seen it so many times. We know exactly what's going to happen if we win, which I think we should. Just by, it sounds arrogant, but we're playing Kilmarnock at home. We should win, always. We're then playing Ross County away. You say it's got draw written all over it. Ross County aren't a great team, but I understand our outlier this year has been beating Ross County by 6-0. But I feel like I'm sounding like Clement here, that I seem to be using that as, we beat Ross County 6-0. No, they're not a good team. But like I say, with domestic football, we've really, really struggled, because these teams just know that if they pack midfield, they pack defences, we're susceptible at the back to a long ball, or we've got a brain fart in us. Spurs, Ricky was talking about earlier on, Maida against Tav, Son and Kulusevski against our fullbacks is just... I've got nightmares thinking about it. I really, really think that if Postecoglou, who might want to make his old employers a wee early Christmas present, he could make that anything he wants, and that's just being realistic. It's no nice to talk about, and we don't want to mention it. But they've not even qualified. I think we're sitting above them at the moment, currently in the EL table. So it's not as if they're qualified and they're like, we'll just send up the reserves that a lot of English teams like to do. They need to win. So if he goes up there and he sends up Son, Kulusevski, Werner, guys who are all rapid at a level that we've not played for a long, long time. At that point, I'd be like, just play a flat back 10. Genuinely, I'd say just stick 11 guys on the goal line for 90 minutes. Have a couple swinging for the crossbars. And I know we're obviously being ridiculous, but either that or you just essentially use the Spurs game as it's a write-off. Because if we have to exert so much energy to play Spurs, to then go into the cup final on the Sunday, to then have to do the same thing again, to play against a team that are going to counter us and going to press us, then you need to be realistic. Do you know what I mean? It's got an absolute disaster written all over it. It really, really does. But I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought, and it's probably not one that I've thought about, Ricky, too much, actually, how close those two are, and the kind of, that game at home. You say that, the game at home against Tottenham, it will be a full house. It'll be as noisy as anything. The fans will be up for it. The players will be up for it. We know what happens when that happens at Ibrox. Where's your head out with that, Ricky? And then I guess the second point is we've got the game against them afterwards on the Sunday. Would you play a reserve team against Tottenham, or would you just go for it and get a big confidence boost against them if you pick anything up?
Well, Ross, forget to mention that you've also got Brennan Johnson that could probably come up and play in that team and all. Is absolutely on fire at the moment with that Spurs team. So, listen, we've got to take each game at a time here. But I fully expect us to beat Kilmarnock, because Kilmarnock under Derek McInnes probably won't sit in that most other teams do at Ibrox. And we just don't have the quality in the final third to break these teams down. We have the majority of the possession, but we just find it hard in the final third. And until we can get Danilo match fit, because we can see in the play that Danilo, when he is on the pitch, he's an intelligent football player. He makes the right runs. Him and Cherny have got a good understanding. I'm sure if Hadji does get that run of games, him and Danilo will build up a good relationship, as well as Bolrami. And you know, you've then got a forward sort of a thinking final 3, 4, if you like, that it can maybe start punishing teams. At the moment, we just don't have that. So, but it's just got to be one game at a time. And I would play Danilo and Hadji against Kilmarnock and get some minutes in Danilo's legs, because we'll never get the guy match fit if we don't bloody start him. You know, he's paid a lot of money. We need to start utilising him. And then we go up to Dingwall at the weekend. We need to start building this team for that cup final. That brings me on to the Spurs game. And Ross, what do you do? You know what I mean? Do you start the team that you want to start against Celtic? Because are you running the risk of exhaustion? Come not so much the Thursday, but come the Sunday for the cup final. You're running the risk of key players getting injured. Because as Ross already alluded to, Tottenham will need to come up and try and get something from that game. So it's not going to be an easy game. We still have got Manchester United to go down to Manchester and play. But I think even losing both those games, we can still qualify for the middle third. By beating St Gallen at home in the final sort of a group games. I'm right in saying that. So that in mind, the Tottenham game might not be a kind of game where we say, look, we're going to go and try and win this because you've got the cup final in the back of your head. I don't know. You just don't know what's going to be in the thoughts of the manager on that week. But they certainly won't want to go into that Spurs game and make a fool of themselves, because the fans want to be a full house. People paying 60 quid a ticket, whatever it may be, they'll be expecting the Rangers to turn up. And I think they probably will go with their strongest team and take their chances. And listen, they're all professional athletes. I'm not having that, they can't play on a Thursday and a Sunday and still not turn into performances. Sports science nowadays probably tells you it doesn't, but never used to happen years ago with all these bloody strappings that they're wearing nowadays. So yeah, I expect them to go with their strongest team against Spurs and try and get that qualification done, and then we'll move on to the next game, which just happens to be Celtic at Hampden in the cup final. Best of luck, Rangers.
Yeah. Jock, are you excited by these fixtures coming up, or are you sort of sat there in some trepidation, kind of thinking, "Oh God, we're really going to be exposed here"? Where's your head at?
No, I don't think so. I think European nights at Ibrox the last 4 or 5 years are something different. The team just seem to be able to take from the crowd and use it in these games, and we've seen it. And I think a team of calibre of Spurs and Man United, the players are bound to be up for this. It shouldn't take the manager to G them up for a game like this. You know what I mean? This is the sort of games that they're looking to play for. And you come to Rangers to play in these kind of games because it's the only sort of place up around here you're going to get it on the other side of Glasgow. So, and we're in a good position as well, I think. I think that gives us good footing as well. It'd be different if we were further down the table and we were sort of chasing, but we're not. We're in a good position. So I think certainly the Spurs game at Ibrox, I think you could take it as not a free hit, but it's not a disaster if we get beat. So I think it's going to be an open game. And Spurs play very open football, which if we play like we did on Thursday, I think it's going to be a good spectacle to watch. I'm interested to see how it's going to go. They've got plenty of pace to kill us at the back, but I think we'll cause them problems as well. I don't think it'll be a case of Spurs will turn up and turn us over. I think if anything, we'll probably be the masters of our own downfall. But I do think we'll give them a game. It's one I'm very much looking forward to. Just got it, I can't go.
Yeah. I think it's one that we all saw and sort of earmarked as, God, that's going to be a good. The return of Big Ange and the quality that Tottenham have got as well. But look, I think we've set ourselves up in a really strong position that a lot of teams in Europe will be looking at that leaderboard and saying there's probably, a few teams that you'd want to avoid, certainly in the Europa League. Hopefully they're not looking too much at the domestic form, but certainly we're in that bracket, I think, of teams to avoid in the Europa League, which is good. Right, we're gonna wrap up in a sec. So Ross, I just kind of wanted to get your final thoughts on the game from St Johnstone. Let's put that to bed, and then I guess how are you feeling moving into the next couple of games?
Can't believe we've not even discussed the goal, the shining light moment of the game.
I mean,
where
if you really want to,
Jason Holt decided to turn into Jason Holt of 2015-16, late running at the box, sticking the ball away. Do you know what? Honestly, it was like watching Warburton football all over again. It was great. It was brilliant. And we even had a bold manager on the sidelines. It was like, oh, it was great. It was great. I was about to get my loaves of bread out again. Brilliant.
Yeah. Magic hat back again. Jock, any final remarks from you? Any final thoughts?
Let's say I can't say much about the goal. It was almost a Tav of old. Tav 2 years ago would have headed that or would have volleyed it in the net. He wouldn't have relied on Jason Holt to do it for him. I'm just looking forward to the next run of games right up until the run of Christmas. There's plenty going on. There's a lot to play for, and obviously we're going up against a couple of good big Premier League teams as well, and those are the fixtures you want in European ties. You want the teams for England. You want the old Battle of Britain game. So looking forward to that. Plus with the cup final as well. Can't wait.
Yeah, completely agree. Ricky, thanks for coming on, mate. Any thoughts from you?
Yeah, just my immediate thought was Jason Holt. That was yesterday with the mistake to put it over the bar or something. But no, listen. The positives from Sunday for me, 100% Hadji. I think he just gives us a little bit more urgency, energy. He can see things. Keep him in the team. Get Danilo in there. Let's start linking the play up, and take it forward. And I think if we have Balogun fit for the next 5 games along with Suter, that'll be a major difference. But whether big Leon can stay fit, he was 36, 37, but he's a key player for us because Suter just becomes first class when they're playing alongside each other. So for me, the next 2 games, it's got to get Hadji in there, start getting Danilo involved a lot more than what he currently is, and let's build up to the Celtic game. But yeah, there was positives, and for me, Hadji was. He was and Raskin and Barron are playing well together now, aren't they? Just maybe a little bit too deep, but that's formation. They 2 are positives as well.
Yeah, completely agree. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me tonight. Thank you for those watching at home or listening after the live recording. If you do like this, then there is plenty more to catch on the Rangers Journal on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and all the other ones that are out there. 3 points, much needed 3 points yesterday up in Perth, and we move next on to Wednesday at Kilmarnock. And remember, every night is the Rangers Journal night.